let's talk about a certain thing which is instrumental at bringing football fans together all around the country. No, not the implosion of Arsenal's title chances, or Manchester United getting dumped out of a European competition.
I just do not know how we've lost 3-0 to Sevilla.
But one of the nation's greatest contributions to the world, other than the Greggs sausage roll of course, is railways. So get on board as we tell you the journey they went on to evolve into the backbone of the nation. When they are actually running, that is. Off we pop to the early 19th century, to the age of the Industrial Revolution and famous tiny Frenchmen, but on top of this was an emerging technology which would transform the world forever, the steam locomotive. No longer would horses solely be required to lug humans from one place to another. This culminated in the first railway to use steam engines, the Stockton and Darlington Railway, opening in 1825. Once this first demonstration of steam trains was undertaken, that would be a catalyst for developments in the railways, with the first intercity passenger railway opening in 1830 between two cities renowned for loving each other, Liverpool and Manchester. With Manchester having the manufacturing and Liverpool having access to the sea for trade, it was a match made in heaven for a railway. The line would be the first demonstration of what we associate with railways today, such as scheduled services and termini stations. After the opening of the Liverpool to Manchester line, proving that railways were a viable and profitable form of transportation, the amount of railways would explode during the 1840s. With the Industrial Revolution in full swing, a growing middle class who had money available to invest, and a government with a laissez-faire attitude to railway construction, lines would pop up left, right and centre, built by private railway companies, often without much regard for potential traffic, essentially the crypto craze of the 19th century, which was known as railway mania. As you can expect, just like with most investment crazes, the bubble would eventually burst, which would lead to people losing lots of money.
And it's gone.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom, with a lasting result being the supercharging of the country being covered by railways, more than half the total mileage of today's system being built during the 1840s, and would cement the likes of Brunel and Stevenson as engineering icons. However, with the majority of the lines being built by private companies who were competing for passengers, there was no coordination for expansion of the system on a national level, meaning that the most efficient routes may have been avoided due to costs of acquiring land and building expensive infrastructure. By 1914, the system had reached its peak length with around 20,000 miles of track, which, to put into perspective, is 4/5 the size of the Earth's circumference, or nearly the size of a Harry Maguire forehead.
Look at the size of that fucker!
With the railways being constructed and operated by small private companies, this meant there was a lot of them, 120 to be exact, competing for bums on seats off the trains. As you can expect, having 120 companies running the nation's transport network was a bit of a shit show, and after the government had taken over control of the railways during World War I, the benefits of amalgamation were there to be seen. But instead of continuing to run the railways, the government decided to group the railways into 4 private holdings, dubbed the Big Four, in 1923. As the years went on, the railways would be subject to a new kid on the block, the automobile, muscling in on its turf, taking an increasing share of passenger and freight trips. But despite this increasing competition from the road, the Big Four managed to have some major successes, such as LNER hitting 110-mile-an-hour speeds for their trains, and Southern Railway carrying out major electrification of its network to suburban London and South Coast resorts, which is still in use today. Along came another world war in the 1940s, which led a death blow to the Big Four, with the network experiencing excessive strain and developing a substantial maintenance backlog. The eventual result was the government nationalising the railways after the war in 1948. As the post-war era began, it became the period of cars and motorways, with the railway just not being sexy anymore.
Freshen your drink, Governor!
With a push for the network to be more profitable, along came arguably the railway's greatest foe. No, not him, but a man called Dr. Richard Beeching, who attempted to reorganise the system by putting a nuke to it. Known as the Beeching Axe, thousands of miles of railway lines were to be closed, which initially would have been 55% of the network if it wasn't for the opposition and protest from local groups who insisted their lines should be saved. Following the rationalisation of the railways, the system in subsequent decades had managed to reverse its decline of passenger numbers, and instead of increasing closures of lines, it has become the opposite, with older lines being reopened and even new constructions of lines, including a few high-speed lines which you might have heard of, with the first one opening in 2007 and the second one is currently under construction with an estimated completion date of 2100, which will arrive just in time for when Tottenham celebrate the next trophy win.
And that's the end of that chapter.